And we're live now.
And the broadcast is live. Welcome to Clarity Based Marketing with Miss Janice Polk, and I'm Dr. John Rothwell as her guest for Outside the Box Healthcare 2020. Thank you, Janice, for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for doing the intro. I thank you every time, but I love that you do the intros because I don't like it. I don't like doing the intro.
Well, I feel like I'm at the club doing some kind of PA announcement or something. So
It's perfect. You could be a DJ. Totally could be a DJ.
I know, because I would just play Jimmy Buffett and reggae and steel drums all day. I am
That's
the live
okay.
DJ,
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on the venue, of course. It always depends.
right?
Speaking of venues, I got my new background. What do you think about my new background? Swear I'm
That
posting
looks
up now.
good. That looks
Yeah.
good. I mean, I did, just over a month ago, I was in St. Thomas, and so it looks a little bit like that for me, but it really just relaxes me and makes me want to chill out. I think your other one was had like the inside of an office or a studio. I like that one just because it makes me feel studious.
I don't feel studious today. Yes, yeah. So we can't put you in a virtual background because you have to be where you are. So,
Yeah, well, yeah, today is one of those days. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I talk a lot about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial wellness, and part of that is the importance of sleep, and it's something that I work on. And since my rugby injury, I haven't slept very well,
oh, I'm
and
sorry.
so last night I didn't sleep very well, and then I had to wake up and I saw a patient at 7:30 this morning, so I'm a little out of sorts too, a little tired, and so men tend to not really focus on their health, right? It's usually a significant other that kind of pushes them towards that way. And I'm a
What?
man. I'm a man, right? And
Yes.
so I really have to look and say, okay, so why am I not sleeping? Is it over fatigue or fatigue? Is it hormonal? We often don't think of things like melatonin and those things of affecting hormones and or testosterone when it comes to fatigue, or even what's traditionally women's hormones. And so men have hormones too. And so today, maybe what we can do is talk a little bit about men's sex hormones and
Oh
or
my.
just sex hormones in men in general. And so we won't necessarily deep dive it, but when it comes to testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, men, like women, have the same thing, but kind of in reverse proportion.
All right, let me stop you for just a second and say, so if you're watching, this is episode 2 of our men's health series. So we agreed to do a men's health series. So this is part 2. And Dr. John just introduced, surprise to me. Usually I'm the one surprising him, but surprise to me, what our subject is today, and it's hormones, men's hormones.
Men's
And
sex hormones.
oh, okay. So men's sex hormones, and I'm okay with that. I'm down with that. So we're going to talk about men's sex hormones and how that affects men in general, right? Like, I always bring this up. I've brought this up before and said, people always talk about women's hormones and, it's kind of a joke how, oh, it's that time of the month and, hormones and that sort of thing. But hormones, that's a serious subject. And, I'll joke around about it too, but it really is a serious thing and it's a real thing and it affects men too. So let me say, if you have a question, if you're watching live and you want to ask a question or you want to weigh in, say hello. Yeah, I'm like swimming today. Say hello, ask a question, weigh in. If you're joining us later and it's already over, you can still comment. And Dr. John's really good about coming back and answering questions. So, all right, the floor is yours, but I'm going to interject and ask questions. So go ahead. Let's talk.
I'm just curious what pops up when you start to Google sex hormones.
Oh, you don't want to know. Because I do. I Google everything. Hi, Corey. Corey said hi. Say hi to
Hey,
Corey.
Corey. Hey, Corey. So, all right. So let's talk. So men
Yes.
have testosterone, they have estrogen, and progesterone's part of it too. And when it comes to addressing those things, usually when men think about their hormones, they think steroids, right? And
Right.
when they're young and wanting to build muscle, you hear anabolic steroids, and so everyone gets afraid that if we give too much hormones, we're going to affect different parts of our body. So we kind of ignore it and let life take its course. And just like with women who go through perimenopause and then menopause and postmenopause, men, their testosterone or their hormones are higher when they're younger. And then
Sure.
as time goes on, they start to decline. And then there's kind of a cliff and where it just kind of falls off. And it's just kind of like, where did
Where's
all
that?
my
Where's
where
that
did my
cliff?
drive go?
I mean,
Right?
come on. Hold on. There's a cliff.
It feels
Let's
kind of
talk
like
about this
this,
cliff
right?
for a minute.
As far as numbers, and that's why I say, don't treat the numbers, treat the patient. And so because we don't talk about sex enough and we don't talk about hormones enough with men, we typically don't address these. And so something as simple of, I just don't have the energy that I once had, is one way to lead into the conversation of, well, do you have the erections you once had? And then it's like, well, I hate to admit it, but, I don't quite get it like I used to, kind of thing. And you start talking about these things, or if they have high blood pressure, or if their diabetes gives you a lead in to start talking about the different sex hormones that affect men. And so testosterone, after the age of 30 starts to decline. And then when you hit the age of 50, there's a sharper decline.
Where's the cliff? Where's the cliff? I want to know
Supposed to
about
be
this
right
cliff.
around 50. I don't know. I'm trying to measure it right now because I turned 51 a few weeks ago. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But what's interesting is, and I'm finding this in my practice, is I'm finding young men under 30
Hi,
who have,
Ellen.
who have lower testosterone levels. And
In their
this is
30s? Is that what
in
you
their
said?
30s. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so
Okay.
people are like, well, why? Right? They should be young, reproductive age,
Mm-hmm.
um, virulent, high
Sure.
libidos and high sex drives. And when we're talking to them, it's like young men not interested in sex, and young men having issues with fatigue and energy. And so as we take a deeper dive in this, what people don't understand is all those hormones are interconnected. And so you have this interconnectedness between sex hormones and thyroid hormones and insulin, which is sugar, and then your stress response with the cortisol. It's all interconnected. And so you really have to spend time with your patients and break it down to see what's the root cause of this. And what I find quite frequently is some of these young men are coming to me and they're on antidepressants. Well,
Mm.
antidepressants
Mm.
suppresses the male hormone, right? The androgens,
Really?
right? And testosterone. And so,
Antidepressants can disrupt your hormones.
yes, absolutely.
I
And
did not know
so,
that.
where women may typically have not the same libido as a male, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're on antidepressants, means it's even worse. And with
Gotcha.
men, they could have the same thing, a lower sex drive, maybe even some sexual dysfunction. And so for a young man, he doesn't expect to have sexual dysfunction at 28 years old. Whereas, a man in his 70s might not want some kind of sexual dysfunction, but may have some just because of pure age. And I would argue, along with other people who have like minds, would argue that there's resources today where we shouldn't have to live that way. And we should, as
Yeah.
men, be able to supplement with bioidentical hormones to get the testosterone levels to where they were when we were young men. And if we did this would actually help our cholesterol and triglycerides, It will help that little bit of belly fat, the dad bod, right? It
Right.
would help that. It helps with energy, helps with confidence, right? That emotional health, that because they can still perform like they did when they were younger. They have a
So
desire.
let me ask you a question. So you mentioned something a few minutes ago. So can high blood pressure be associated with a disruption in hormones?
Sure. So if you think of this, high blood pressure
Mhm.
is often caused by the stiffening of the arteries, which
Right.
means that that's a vascular issue, which
Okay.
then decreases the ability to hold erections like you typically would. So you have this combating with the hormones. So with that stiffening of the arteries in the elevated blood pressure, then may affect the stress response, which in turn affects the sugar, which in turn affects insulin. And so then you have excess insulin, you end up having insulin resistance, which in turn affects your other hormones. So it's this vicious cycle.
It sounds
And so
complicated.
it's complicated. But
Okay.
at the
Great.
end of the day, it's why nutrition and balancing stress and daily living and hormones are so important to your life. What were we going to say?
So here's a thought that I had, as you were talking. So hormones get talked about a lot in a female world. Not as much in a male world, but a lot in a female world. But even though we talk about hormones a lot and we make a lot of speculation about whether, oh, well, that's probably, this hormone or that hormone, or, oh, your thyroid's probably not doing its job, or, whatever, there's a lot of speculation. And I'm not a big fan of speculation, as you well know. I like facts. And
Mhm.
but the thing is that you don't want to be running and getting tests all the time. But so at what point do you determine that, let's check the hormone levels and see if there's a variance there that might explain, things? When do you do that? When do you
Sure.
recommend doing that?
So with men, it's a little different. So top of the head balding for some men, and increased fatigue or lack of energy, lack of desire, decreased libido, inability to lose weight, inability to build or increase muscle. There could be a imbalance of testosterone versus estrogen. Nola and I are going back and forth right now because my estrogen's a little high, and she's like, you know what? I'm not going to let you look at that anymore until we start doing something because you're starting to fixate on it. And I go, look, I don't have man boobs, so I'm okay.
So
But
what?
at the same time, I'm like, well, how is this affecting me? Because I eat well, I do the things I'm supposed to do. And she's like, you do, but are you exercising? Or are you increasing movement, like we like to say? And I'm like, well, not as much as I should. Well, if I increase movement, by increasing movement, your activity, like specific activity to lift weights, do some cardiovascular stuff, that actually helps increase testosterone and decrease estrogen
Naturally. Right.
naturally. And so when you age, it doesn't do it as easily, but it still does it. So if you're sitting on your arse and you're just, taking supplemental testosterone and you're not doing anything else, then you're more likely to have elevated estrogen levels too. And so you're not going to get the full benefits of having the increased testosterone other than the increased libido and, energy. And so, but if you really want to maximize it or maximize your benefits of it, you got to do those other things. You have to balance your physical health and, from a nutritional and an activity perspective. Um, so one of the things for men can think of is, if they're not waking up in the middle of the night with erections or waking up in the morning with erections, then they may have a decrease in testosterone too. Ability to keep erections for a long time while engaged in sexual activity, which shouldn't happen. That could be a reason for it too. And that could be vascular too. So those are just things to bring up with your healthcare provider. Men tend to be a little bit more well, I can't say men tend to be more self-conscious than women, but men begin talking about their penis at a very, very young age, and they have this comparative analysis they do with all their peers. And so if they have any kind of dysfunction, or they're concerned about size or those kind of things, they tend to not talk about those things. And so they're not a traditional topic, except when bragging or making fun of one another. I mean, I play rugby, and with 50-year-old grown men, we still play the game as mine's bigger than yours kind of thing. And it's just like, really, guys, we're in our 50s. And yeah, so, and we've been doing it in elementary school. So
there's something to be said for not growing up.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to wrap on this. This is a deep subject. We're going to talk about it some more. Hi, Candy. Candy just said, hey, you too. And Ellen said hello. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad that you can make it, Candy. So we're going to talk about this again next week, which I may or may not be able to meet next week because I'm going to be on a business trip. But I'm going to try. I might be shooting remotely from a hotel room, but we're going to try. So, but next week, let's talk about this again, because this is a big subject, hormones in general. And because I have a lot of questions, and we don't have time for all the questions. So I have one question. So let's say that someone just suspects that their testosterone level is low, which is going to be probably any man over 50 is going to be like, oh my gosh, my testosterone is probably getting low, because it probably is, So whatever. What's something natural, and I think I know what you're going to say, but what's something natural that you can do without going to get tested, without taking supplements, what's something natural that you can do to increase your testosterone levels? A man can increase his testosterone levels.
Yeah, so resistance training, weight training.
Resistance training. See, and now this is what I love about you, because I thought you were just going to say exercise. And I knew it was going to be some kind of exercise, but specifically resistance training. What does that mean?
Yeah, so lifting weights. So having some kind of weight. And when I say lifting weight, I don't necessarily mean a dumbbell, right? So if I weigh 195 pounds, that's weight training, right? So
body weight.
That's my body weight. So if I do a push-up, that's body weight. If I do a squat, that's body weight. A lunge, that's body weight. And so that's where you start. So I like high intensity and intermittent intensity type training. So HIIT training. And so I need to do more of it, to maintain, because my testosterone is actually pretty good, my total testosterone, but my free testosterone's not, which means I'm not maximizing my testosterone like I should. And so old Dr. John, nurse practitioner here, isn't doing the things that he's supposed to be doing. And so while I don't have the physical effects of it, I have plenty of energy and libido and those kind of things. I'm looking at my numbers, and me, I'm not a numbers guy, but I'm looking at my numbers, and it's having an emotional and a psychological effect on me. And so we're trying, with Dr. Nola and I, we're trying to address those things. I tend to be a slow learner because I tend to put everybody else before myself, and just by nature of what we do.
Yeah.
And so I need to get better at that. So that's a mindset change thing for me. So nutrition is good. Spiritual wellness is good, but my physical activity isn't quite where it needs to be. Part of it is I'm nursing a rugby injury right now, so I have what they call a high-grade partial thickness tear of a tendon here, and so I don't want to have surgery. So I'm going to do some different type of treatments along with physical therapy for it. So more on that much later. Okay,
so from it's all good, very good information. I'm sorry you got an injury. You'll get better. I have faith in you.
Hey, 50 still playing rugby. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Janice will consult with you later on that. I'll give you some advice. No, I will. Anyway, so what do you recommend? A couple things I heard in that dialogue was that maybe getting tested, maybe knowing the numbers aren't really that, it's not really that important. It might even have a negative effect on your psyche, because you can really psych yourself out. But you should be supporting healthy hormones through activity and that sort of thing anyway. So if you're going to do that without knowing any tests or anything like that, what do you recommend in resistance training? Like how often a week, how much, just bare minimum, bare minimum. We're not trying to be, Arnold Schwarzenegger here. We're trying to just do what we got to do.
Yeah, so it goes for women too. So women need to increase activity, and that helps with their testosterone. What your comment or your question puts everybody in a box. And so, me, I don't like to put everybody in the box. I'm outside the box, right?
Sure.
And so you saw what I did there? And
I saw what you did. Good job. Good job.
So, so I have patients, if you're working, this is the importance of working with your provider on it. So we have patients who have high stress response, high stress lifestyles and stuff like that. You don't want to increase the stress, so they're not working out 4, 5, 6 days a week. But they could be doing that and have a high stress lifestyle, which increases the stress, and then they're not maximizing the benefits of it. So people like that may only be able to work 2 days, increase movement 2 days a week, or resistance training 2 days a week, and then they might do some cardiovascular 1 or 2 days a week. So everybody is different. So you really need to kind of know the big picture. And this is why we find it so important to spend an hour with our patients, because we can hit on those things. And I have patients who we may cut back from 6 days a week to 2 and get them balanced out, and then go to 3, and then go to 4, and then go to 5, and we may cap it at 5. Depends on how their body's responding. Part of this is learning yourself and learning how to respond to yourself. Look, it takes a lot of time to understand what feels good. You have to have a lot of experience first. And until you start to listening to your body, you really don't know. And then some people, they have childhood trauma, and that childhood trauma keeps them from learning that. And so you got to peel back those layers, kind of like an onion, right? You got to peel back the layers to get to a point to see what's right for that patient. So I would say, stereotypically, it's probably 3 days a week.
Okay.
2 days a week of some kind of resistance training, and 2 days a week of some kind of activity that increases the heart rate, right? And so,
okay, 2 to 3 days a week of resistance training, and 2 to 3 days a week of something that increases the heart rate.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about sex for 5 minutes.
No, I wasn't going to ask, but come on.
That's extracurricular, right? But I am talking about, what I get oftentimes from men is, I have a physically demanding job. I work construction. I walk 6 miles.
Oh, yeah.
I have increased activity. And I'm like, no, that's not mentally, emotionally focused, increased activity. That's your job. So your body is adapted to that. You need something like, go grab your spouse, your significant other, hold their hand, and go walk for 7.5, 10 minutes away from your home, and then walk back. Right. And now you have 20 minutes of increased movement that's low impact, so it doesn't hurt your knees. Right.
Sure.
And that's increased activity. And that's what I'm talking about. And the cool thing about that is, if you do it with your partner, it leads to increased intimacy, which leads to better sex. And that's what I'm talking about.
That's a great place to stop. It's a great place to stop. Thank you so much. It's a great conversation. It's a great subject. And we'll pick it back up again. We're going to do men's health for a while until we get tired of men's health. We're going to talk about it because it doesn't get talked about enough. And so we can talk about it and change the
yeah. And so listen, men's health can be quite, if you go to a men's health clinic, oftentimes financially, it's not financially feasible for many people, so they don't do it. I believe that men's health is part of primary care. And so we include taking care of men's health as part of our primary care process. So there's no extra costs and stuff like that. I think it's typically somewhere right around $300-400 a month to go to a men's health clinic, and they're only taking care of the hormone side, not even the health and wellness side that outside of that. And so we believe it's part of primary care. And so that's included with us. So, our costs, it's, as low as $49 a month, for kids, and $99 a month for adults. And then for families, we give them a 15% discount. And so we can, we include women's health and men's health as part of our health care, because we think
which is phenomenal. I was just telling a new friend the beginning of this week about, the direct primary care model, because there's still a lot of people who don't understand, what it is, paying a monthly fee to have unlimited access to, telemedicine, phone consultations, and in-person visits is just, it's a dream come true for me. I love it. It works very well for me. And so I'm probably sending a new patient to you. And so it's great. And if you are not familiar with direct primary care, I would encourage you to go to islanddpc.com and check out Dr. John and his practice. And thank you, Dr. John, for being here. And I'll see you hopefully next week, if not next week, the following, but same place, same time, same place on here where we are. See you soon. If you have a question, post it. We'll get Dr. John to loop back and answer it, and look for us next week. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.